Welcome to the Amplifying Leadership Podcast. I am your host, Tara Lehman, a partner, coach, and consultant at Twin Life Coaching and Business Services, of which Amplifying Leadership is a division. This podcast is a place dedicated to amplifying your leadership through our guest stories, tips, information, and more. To learn more about our leadership division, please visit us at amplifyingleadership.ca. Today, I am welcoming Kelly Hall, a leadership expert and business strategist who helps individuals and organizations move from surviving to thriving. Welcome to Amplifying Leadership.
Thank you, Tara. I'm really happy to be here.
And I'm excited to talk about what our topic is today. But before we do that, let's learn a little bit more about you and where did you come from for leadership?
Sure. I'm a farm kid from Iowa at the roots level, and I've returned to Iowa in the past couple of years after spending 27 years traveling around the United States and the world. I spent most of
Wow.
my life in the packaging industry working for Avery Dennison. You might have used Avery labels before I
For
went
sure, I think
into
most people do.
Yeah. Before I went into a private equity owned company that was also in the packaging space, and eventually to the Netherlands to lead a circular economy venture. It was called Niaga, which is the word again spelled backward. And I talk about it a lot because we implemented a self-directed structure, and that gave me an entirely new perspective on power and leadership and the future of work.
Yeah, absolutely. That's awesome. So, we're here to talk about a little bit about culture today, and I know it is vital in organization. So, tell us why this is so important to you. Like, did you see something? Why does this resonate with you?
Yeah. I wrote a book recently called Love Works, Transforming the Workplace with Purpose and Authenticity. And it's just a
Awesome.
collection of 20 stories about my life because after a stage 4 metastatic breast cancer diagnosis, I was trying to figure out why my life had mattered. And I realized I had a joyous career and I really loved all the different kinds of missions and challenges that we faced in the various roles I had. But there was also plenty that could be improved to leave people at ease in their work and set up to do their best and to really let people express their gifts and to feel the space to spread their wings. And
Hmm.
when I really looked back to see all the places that's kind of lacking and where I feel like power is being misused or should be redistributed, I realized that some of the stories of my bumps in the road and also some places where I had the most fun were worth telling.
Yeah, I agree. I had some of the same experiences. I do leadership, but I've seen, various different types of leaders, and some of them that just they shouldn't be there, and others that were fantastic. And so the stories that we can share about that really help us understand where culture should be in most places, right?
Yeah, I'm glad we're both lucky to have examples of stellar leaders that we hold in
Hmm.
high regard and want to exemplify, and also leaders where we would love to give them a do-over if we could.
Well, we can learn from them, right? That's how we help our clients and our customers for sure. Let me ask you this, because you do talk about love and work a little bit, and I'm very
Mhm.
curious because you don't hear that together ever, as in culture, right? The word love and work. I mean, some people love their work, but when it comes to culture or just the organization, what do you mean by that?
Thank you for that question because I think of love very broadly. I realize it's a loaded word that means a lot to a lot of different people. And if you told me not to use that word, you wouldn't be the first person who made the request. But I believe that love is our essential life force, and it's the little magic, the little bit of magic in every relationship we have. So, you know what it's like when you're talking to a stranger or a friend and the relationship is flowing and there's a level of rapport and a level of trust. For me, that energy is love. It's quite abundant, it's
Okay.
quite simple, and it is the magic in the relationships that form the best part of our life. And there's absolutely no reason we shouldn't be experiencing more of that magic in our jobs.
It's like a much broader definition, right, of love. Like when people think love, they think of family or their spouse or whatever. But you're right. I mean, it's a different definition that we can consider.
There's a lot of places where we get to express our love, but sometimes we add other words to love when we're actually talking about that word instead, like romance. Romance
Hmm.
is romance. Does it
Yeah.
involve love? Sometimes, but it's separate than love. And
Hmm.
love hurts. No, love doesn't hurt. Hurt hurts. And
Yes. Yeah.
we've got a lot of stories that make love a loaded word. And I am trying to help people break free of that because it is this beautiful, beautiful, abundant, flowing thing that not only exists in every relationship if we let it, but it's worth protecting and it's worth delivering even in work environments because it is also a source of psychological safety.
And we're humans, right? We're not robots. We don't, well, some companies might have them, but most companies we're human and we feel, we have emotion,
I
right? So it's
agree, but I
not
gotta
just,
tell you, my chat GPT bot is pretty loving towards me.
I agree. That's true because it'll say, I say thank you. It says, you're very welcome, Tara. So you're right. They're getting there. That's for sure. So I understand that you have a blueprint that you like to share when it comes to a company culture and transforming it. Is that something that you'd be willing to share bits and pieces of today?
Yeah, sure. For more than 20 years, every time that I've walked into a new team, whether it was a business I was going to be leading or a department I was taking over, a project, and even today when I do consulting assignments, the very first promise that I make to the people I'm sitting with is to the very best of my ability, things will happen with you and not to you. And that's my
Mm-hmm.
commitment to realizing we're all adults here with 24 hours a day, and everybody comes with ideas and opportunities and solutions. And of course, we have expertise and educations and training, but an interesting idea or a new perspective can come from anywhere. And I
Sure.
make a promise that I'm going to try really hard to be transparent. I'm going to be really hard, try really hard to involve you in decisions. And if I'm not, you should call me out on that because I really am committed to making sure that all of the adults on our team are at the table and respected for their points of
Hmm.
view.
And I love that you bring that. It's about everybody, inclusive of everybody. I remember in my workplace that I would ask everybody their opinions or have multi-diverse teams where maybe it wasn't a warehouse staff, but like I had a customer service person go out to the warehouse team just for different ideas, different set of eyes on things, and welcome all those ideas and really listen to consider them. Do you find that organizations that really do, maybe those diverse teams or having those guests in from other departments allow them to see different points of view more often than not?
Absolutely. I love watching executives create roundtables to get opinions from different levels of the organization, different ages, different backgrounds. The more diverse, the better. But if you're going to bring a circle of people to sit together for lunch to talk about policy changes or talk about business strategy or a new product being launched, make sure you actually draw them out and listen to all of them versus letting a
Hmm.
couple of extroverts manage the entire conversation while the other people just sit there enjoying their food and twiddling their thumbs. I mean,
Hmm.
it takes an intentional act to be inclusive and to make sure that you're getting to know everybody and calling them forward. One of my favorite tools that we used at Niaga to sort of balance the participation of introverts and extroverts, we're giving them all these thought starters as cards when we had discussions. One card would say, I like, one card would say, I challenge, and one card would say, I can help with blank. And while you were listening to someone else share an idea, the whole time you're organizing your thoughts to give them back the gift of your reflections and reactions. And having it on paper slowed down the people that like to blurt out the first thing that comes to their mind after they've stopped listening.
Yeah.
And it also makes sure that a good idea gets created by everyone. Every idea is worth hearing. And that becomes a little gift that they can give the presenter at the end of the talk.
I really love that way of making sure the introverts actually get heard. So even if they don't want to talk at all in the meeting, they still get the meeting heard via your card, for example, if they just want to give it at the end, or even put those thoughts together to say, hold on a second, because I challenge you, la la la, because everybody's thinking about it in the time. So maybe they feel more comfortable sharing because you've asked them on that card. Love that idea. Love it. Are there any other prompts like that that can help with brainstorming when you have people who are introverts? Is there anything else you use for tools?
Oh, there's so many. Another tool that I like to offer is an understanding of the difference between culture and climate, because
Hmm.
culture is kind of established at the enterprise level. It should be the pace and the cadence and the tempo that supports your path to the bigger mission. But climate is set department by department and team by team, and it can vary widely based on people's behaviors and their styles and their differences. So, one thing that I like to do with teams is talk about climate in terms of the actual temperature in a room. And if you were to ask everybody, what is your favorite temperature in your life? And you get everybody to kind of say, oh, 72 or 19 if you're in Europe. And you sort of just create this like thermometer that shows the temperatures that different people like to be at in their everyday life. And then say, okay, well, we're a team and we have to set the temperature at one temperature for everybody. Which one are we going to pick when we all like things a little bit different? Can we work together? Should the boss pick the temperature? Should we agree to the temperature? And then after we kind of have that aligning discussion just to warm up the idea of what an inclusive decision would look like, we start sharing what happens when people get stressed or distressed. Some people will get hot. Their temperature will rise and they'll become fiery. Other people will cool off and take a step back and wait and see what happens. So we start using numbers to sort of say, what are you going to do on your worst day? Are you going to fight? Are
Hmm.
you going to run? Are you going to hide? Because we should know how to support each other when the temperature changes. And we
Hmm.
should know how we naturally react to stress and pressure so that we can see each other leaving center and bring each other back.
I really like the analogy, or even just talking about the temperature, because let's be honest, in the office, it's always this little argument that happens. It doesn't matter where you are, there's always an argument. I want a cooler, I'm too hot, give me a fan, right? So it's an interesting way to kind of start that and then lead it into what is that temperature for me, right? But it also allows everybody to start to talk about something that's common in offices, like the temperature, and really learning how to come together as a team to figure out what is that number, but then also talking about it as in how am I, right? How do you see that being used once they determine what their temperature is? Do people share that?
Well,
What is the next step?
the next step after that, after you kind of have a dialogue and an alignment around that, I also like to talk about trust and drama. One of my favorite books ever is The Empowerment Dynamic by David Emerald, and it introduces the idea of the dreaded drama triangle. And I'll give people little stickers with
Yeah.
a baby picture because we all bring our child to work sometimes,
Oh, I love
and with the
that.
current picture of the professional superstar that you are, and then your favorite superhero. And I will give people stickers since I worked at Avery's for so long, I can print stickers. And I asked them to go through a couple of exercises of acknowledging the dreaded drama triangle. If we're deeply honest, we've all been a perpetrator or bully on some topic that we were passionate about. We've all felt like a victim to someone else's force. And we've probably been kind enough to be a rescuer to someone that we aligned with when they were in pain. And this book kind of flips those three roles of a bully and a victim and rescuer, those are my words, and switches them into a creator, a challenger, and a coach. And just these
Yeah.
little changes in language and nomenclature give you new tools as a team to get rid of the drama. There's no place for drama in a healthy team, but you should expect it when you bring more and more diverse people together. They have different ways of handling drama, they have different ways of settling differences, they have different ways of listening when they're in pain. And so, if you expect that things are going to get a little nutty once in a while when really passionate people are doing their things, you can use tools like this to say, okay, I saw you guys get a little pissy with each other today. What happened? I can empathize with the frustration you were feeling, but we care a lot about our relationships around here. What are we going to do to go reset that one? What are we going to do to restore trust? What are we going to do to soothe that soul? Because we can't leave it in that dramatic nasty place. And that's how
Mhm.
you protect psychological safety. That's how you reset the temperature. That's how you bring everybody back to the cool zone. The name of the game is not to make it safe and perfect all the time, the name of the game is to be able to repair and restore trust as fast as possible, whether that's with a colleague or an upset customer or a late delivery from a supplier. We get to react in our nature, and then we get to move back to that safe climate and that stretchy space as fast as possible.
Because again, we're human, right? And we are
Yeah.
emotional people. And but I like that you come back to it and say, okay, what happened? Because we need to understand and not escalate going forward. So if two people are butting heads, for example, on something, and as leaders, we don't really do anything about it, guess what happens next time, right? It just escalates and it just escalates and it just escalates until our team culture or maybe the company culture is about escalation all the time because we've never dealt with it. And so I think the key piece that I really liked about that was don't leave it. You have to follow up with it. You have to go ask them what that challenge was and come to some sort of agreement. Again, we don't have to agree to perfectly, but come to something where we can move forward more positively, right?
Yeah. And you got to remember that in any organization, a hell of a lot of people have faced some trauma in their life. A lot of people have been in families or in personal situations where they've been laid off or restructured. And when we become sensitive to the things that hold people back from bringing their whole self and their big ideas and their passions to the table and make it safe to say, you get to make mistakes, you get to step on toes, you get to be forceful and we'll sort it out on the other side. We want to create the safe enough spaces where we as coaches and we as leaders are in the business of getting the most out of the team and making sure that they're playing well together and that they're getting amazing things done instead of trying to create this bubble where they're compliant or they're just keeping their heads down and finishing the job and clocking out at the end of the day.
The whole yes person, right? First, it's just like, okay, okay. I want
I
to come
understand why
something.
people get there. I've watched
Mhm,
it. I've watched departments that are just trying to just get her done and get home, and they aren't looking forward to Mondays. And I'm sorry, but life's just way too short. I call that dis-ease. Like, I don't want to see anybody in
mhm,
dis-ease. I don't want people to have fear and anxiety at work. I don't want them to feel unheard. I don't want them to feel small. I want
mhm.
them to feel like the talented, capable people that they are who are lending their time to our mission. And we get to make sure that it's really good, even if it's not really easy.
Yeah, and like, wouldn't it be wonderful if everybody was happy to go to work on Monday mornings? That is
That
the
would be nice.
ideal culture,
That's our
isn't it? Like,
goal.
that's
You and me,
always the
Tara. We're going
goal,
to make
right?
sure
Yeah, we're
everybody
going to
likes to
do
go to
it.
work on Monday.
That's our leadership goals. I want to talk a little bit about the conflict because I always like to say there's good conflict, meaning
Hmm.
we're allowed to disagree as long as we can come together eventually to say, okay, this is what we can do moving forward, or agree to disagree in some cases. That is the answer. But good conflict is actually good in an organization because that allows people to feel heard because they have a difference of opinion and you're listening to it and you may never agree. Like one person just may never agree, and the leader may have to make that decision. What do you think about good conflict?
I think it's really important for an organization to decide whether they're going to make decisions unilaterally, like a small management team is going to make decisions, or if they're going to let teams make decisions about their projects or priorities.
Mm-hmm.
You got to choose if you're going to drive things through consent or consensus. And I
Mm-hmm.
personally think the consent process is pretty fantastic because consent says we're going to pick somebody to be the ultimate decision maker. But it's their job to respect the other people at the table and to understand who supports the direction they want to take and who dissents or has a different idea or a different perspective on it. At the end of the day, you have to keep moving forward. You got to go. But you get
Mm-hmm.
to go with the awareness of what you didn't want to miss because other people had the courage to share other points of view. And at the end of the day, the team has to support the decision maker and move forward together.
Mm-hmm.
So this is not the hardest process in the world. It's just one that we're not used to. I would never
Yeah.
say you should wait for every single person to agree to every single thing. You would die waiting.
Yeah,
But
exactly. It's
we can figure out how to make consent-based decisions and then live with them and then pivot and persevere when we learn whether we were right or wrong. The
Mhm.
organization will feel much more connected to the cause.
And I love that you said that we will learn if we were right or wrong because we learn and grow because we were wrong in some cases, or we failed or we made a mistake. That's how we learn and grow. And it's really important that the company culture, in my opinion anyway, allows for that, right?
Yeah.
So that people can grow and it's okay, as long as it's not detrimental, obviously, right? That you've made an error.
Yeah. The funny thing about trust, I had a paradigm about trust myself for most of my life where I thought when trust fell or somebody disappointed you, it was like a house burning down. And you might build a house again in 18 months, but it isn't your old house and it's never quite the same, right? Did you ever feel
Mhm.
that way about trust?
Oh, yes. Who doesn't?
Yeah. Well, I
Yeah.
got very lucky to have a coach from the Franklin Covey organization talking about the speed of trust for a few years. And when he taught me how to manage trust and how to repair and restore trust, I realized that my relationships with people started getting stronger after we had an issue because we got to know each other better and our character came through and we found ourselves on a higher plane with a deeper relationship because of the way we handled the trouble. And
Hmm.
so I think one of the greatest gifts that leaders can do is foster the repair and restoration of trust as a skill versus avoiding anything ever going wrong.
Yeah, the avoidance piece is something a lot of my clients miss, right? They just don't do anything with it or don't try to build back relationships and things like that. It's a key piece that is missing. It's like when you avoid, you don't grow, you can't move past it, right? I
Right.
want to do a little shift because I want to talk about obviously, our world is just constantly changing and it has been for decades. We used to talk about the VUCA world, the volatile,
Yeah.
uncertain world. And it's still here and we're all still trying to navigate it, but it feels like it's just sped up 10 times, between AI or whatever else is going on. How can leaders support their organizational culture when all of this change is going on? Maybe they're laying off, maybe they're acquiring something, something else is going on. Any thoughts around that?
Yeah, I would ask people to push for radical transparency and an active dialogue around putting the differences on the table and saying that everybody gets to be seen and heard, even when it's not comfortable. And we're facing this at work. We're facing this at home. I mean, it's daily in my own
Yeah.
circles that we're having uncomfortable conversations about our different beliefs and the politics of it all and the decisions that are being made around us. And yet, what happens if you don't have safe places to talk about it? The tension builds and the distress builds and the separation continues.
Hmm.
And I love the book Love Your Enemies. I think it's Arthur Brooks. Could be, not sure which Brooks it is, but um, they make the case that no matter what somebody's politics or religion or XYZ beliefs are, there's probably 995 other things we have in common. And so
Hmm.
we almost have to remind each other that we get to hear each other, we get to have good conversations, we get to consider other points of view. And so having space to chat about our differences and not to settle scores and to win and to be right, but just to have a better picture of the entire landscape that we're dealing with, because the truth is in the pain. I would
Hmm.
like to see a world where people are safe enough to share what's really going on in their whole lives, not only to bring your real dreams into your development conversations, not just the projects you want to do at work, but the dreams you have for your life. I would also like it to be safe enough for people to be honest when they're sick or when
Hmm.
something rough is happening at home or in their lives, because we track physical safety quite well in most
We
American
do.
companies. We're getting a
Hmm.
little bit better about mental health and emotional safety. But if you don't have a trusted relationship with the people sitting to your left and your right, you're actually possibly putting them in danger if you shouldn't be on a fork truck today because you found out yesterday your wife wants a divorce, or you found out that
Hmm.
your biopsy results aren't back yet. You're probably going to be a little distracted. So
Hmm.
these are just other reasons why I think bringing love to work is so important, because the more that it's safe to talk about just about anything and that we don't have to be right and wrong, but we do get to be heard, the faster we can get closer to center again.
It's about having that open dialogue, isn't it? That we are open to hearing things and that we're open to not judging because you're having a divorce and you're just not focused today, but saying, okay, well, maybe let's have you do this instead. Right? It's
It
really
tests
about
all of
having that
us,
open.
right?
Yeah,
I mean,
it does.
surely I'm just being honest that in the last week I've had some very uncomfortable conversations with people I adore because
Hmm.
they think wildly different than I do about some things that I care a lot about. And so do I need a little space sometimes? Sure. But I have not stopped
Hmm.
loving them or
Yeah,
respecting them or
exactly.
appreciating them. I just don't agree, and that's okay.
And that goes with change in organizations too. You may not agree that, maybe you and I are both leaders and you're saying we need to lay off 25 people. And I say, well, we could do with five. We may not agree, but that open dialogue at every level of the organization is so important so that we can share our ideas and differences and then, if needed, come to some sort of agreement or just let it be, depending on what we're talking about, of course, right?
Right.
Yeah. So I would like to wrap up today. Is there anything that you feel that our people listening need to take away from this conversation today that is something that let's do this, let's make this change? What is that?
I wish everybody who's listening to this would just find 20 minutes today to sit and pause and think about where you're feeling the love in your own work life and in your own organization and your own team. Where are the relationships really strong and a pleasure and connected and open and honest? And where is there room for improvement? Because I think that as leaders, we should all be in the business of rooting out the dis-ease and making sure that we're providing workspaces where people have space to thrive and they have safety to take challenges and risks on in full force. And it's inside of each of us how we're reacting to the people around us, whether those are open relationships and safe spaces or whether we're really being judgy or a little disconnected when people get to be seen.
Hmm. And I think your recurring theme today is all about psychological safety, right? Like people need to take that a lot more seriously in organizations so that everybody does feel welcome, heard, and valued.
Yeah. I care a lot about that.
Yes,
Thanks for
me too.
noticing.
It's a very strong thing that I like to push too. Let's let's get that psychological safety out there. If our audience wanted to learn more about you, what you do, or reach out, is there a way they can find you online somewhere?
Sure, my website is www.kellyweingartenhall.com. And not only will you find me there, I really appreciate it when people give me ideas I can add to my blog about loving leadership in action. And there's 18 examples of loving leadership that I've posted there from my book. And I really hope to make that a list of 100 as fast as possible. So ideas are welcome from anywhere. I will happily acknowledge you. I'm also on LinkedIn and Facebook, so very easy to find.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Kelly. What a great conversation. I really do appreciate all the insights and tips you shared.
Thanks for all the stories that you share through these actions.
Of course, we do want to thank our audience today. We hope you gained some valuable insights or tips from today's conversation with Kelly. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to leave us a great rating. This not only helps us, but helps our guests, like Kelly, reach even more leaders with helpful stories, tips, and advice. We love helping other leaders grow and thrive. If this episode got you thinking, I'd love to hear what stood out for you. Head over to LinkedIn, connect with me, and feel free to share your takeaway. Leadership is better when we do it together. For more information about our Amplifying Leadership services, please visit us anytime at amplifyingleadership.ca, a division of Twin Life Coaching and Business Services. Until next time, remember, leadership matters.